Hi, everyone. I'm Jocelyn Green. I am the author of Drawn by the Current, which is book three in the Windy City saga. This book revolves around the Eastland disaster. I think it's my favorite book in the Chicago series just because it was such an important and tragic event that not very many people have heard about. Today, we have with us Ted Wachholz, Barbara Decker Wachholz, and Susan Decker. Susan and Barbara were the co founders of the Eastland Disaster Historical Society. And Ted, your title is Executive Director and Chief Historian. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I just wanted to talk with the three of you today because the Eastland disaster is just deserves a lot more attention than I think that it has received so far. And the three of you have done so much work in getting the word out, especially in the Chicago area. But why don't you just take a few minutes to tell us what happened on July 24th, 1915?
Sure. So I guess I'll jump in. It was going to be a very festive event, something that thousands of people had looked forward to for pretty much several months leading up to the tragedy. It was going to be the fifth annual employee picnic for the Western Electric Company's Hawthorne Works facility out in Cicero, Illinois. Over 7,000 people had purchased tickets. If you can imagine a company picnic, an employee picnic of 7,000 people, it's quite astounding to even think about that today. But these 7,000 people were all descending upon downtown Chicago the morning of July 24th, 1915, to board one of five ships that would carry them across the southern tip of Lake Michigan to the resort community of Michigan City, Indiana, for a days long outdoor picnic, dancing, all kinds of festive events. And then the ships would return the picnickers back to Chicago later on during the early evening. So it was going to be just a fantastic day for thousands of people, and within about 5 minutes, it turned as horribly tragic as you can't even imagine, really. When the Eastland, which was the first ship that was scheduled to depart, it had already finished boarding. They had over 2,500 passengers on board. In a matter of a few minutes, the Eastland just rolled over onto its side in the Chicago River, and 844 people died within just a few moments.
That's such a huge disaster and a huge loss of life. I even read that when you're just counting the number of passengers, the Eastland lost more passengers than the Titanic did. Although, when you count the crew, Titanic did have more loss of life in general. Why do you think people don't know about the Eastland disaster as much?
I think that's something we've all asked each other, and people have asked us too. Why do so many people not know about this? And we really don't have an answer for that. We know that World War One uh, was just commencing at that time. Um, but I think it was such a shock to the city of Chicago, and it made international news, we know that, and throughout the entire country, but it seemed to so quickly just vanish, whereby through the years people didn't really acknowledge it. And again, there are so many people who live in Chicago, who live in the suburbs, who had never heard about it. Ted grew up in Elgin. He had never heard about it until he came into our family, and he was pretty amazed by that. He said, wow, I knew nothing about that. They don't seem to teach it in history class in school. All the years Sue and I were in school, I don't remember it ever coming up when we were learning history. We learned about the Chicago fire, absolutely. The Chicago fire was in our history textbooks, but nothing about the Eastland. And so I don't really know. I think it's a kind of a mystery as to why so many people don't know about it. And again, everybody knows about the Great Chicago Fire, but when you tell people that the Eastland was Chicago's greatest tragedy and greatest loss of life tragedy, they just can't believe it.